They came from Utah. They came from the western states, parts of the eastern states, Canada and Mexico. They came from Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and Southern Europe. They even came from as far away as China, Japan, and other parts of Asia. They came from everywhere to the wild and woolly American West to seek their fortune. They came to search for a new life and for the freedom and opportunities that only America could offer. They came to Bingham Canyon and became part of the great melting pot that the mining towns of that canyon would become. They founded a town. They founded a school. They founded a family. And although their city has vanished, their legacy lives on today at Bingham High School in the lives of its students who are proud to number themselves as part of Bingham's sons and daughters. Bingham Canyon, located in the Ochre Mountains in southwestern Salt Lake Valley, was named after two Mormon pioneers, Thomas and Stanford Bingham. In 1848, they were sent to the area by Brigham Young to herd horses and cattle. While there, they discovered gold, but were advised by Brigham Young not to mine at that time. The discovery was soon forgotten after 1850 when the Binghams moved to Weber County. Nevertheless, Bingham Canyon continued to be used for obtaining valuable timber. In 1863, as logging operations continued, valuable ores were again discovered. Bingham Canyon was then organized into Utah's first mining district. The rush for riches in Bingham Canyon began. People came from all over the world to work in the Bingham Canyon mines, and the flood of immigrants made Bingham one of the most ethnically diverse areas in Utah. It was estimated that in 1912, 65% of Bingham's residents were foreign-born.
It was a wonderful place to grow up in because we were a cosmopolitan of people. I mean, you didn't have a influence of just one religion. I grew up with Japanese people, Mexican people, Yugoslavs. So I would say it was a town that you grew up in that give you every opportunity in the world to advance.
People were real supportive of each other, even though it was quite an ethnic mix. Being a mining town, a lot of people came from all over the world. There were Chinese people, Japanese people, many what we today would call Hispanic people, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans. And yet everybody seemed to get along extremely well. Everyone was very tolerant and respectful of each other's differences. People tended to live in their own areas of the community. There was Greek Town, the Japanese people lived together. Frog Town was where a group of French immigrants settled. The Swedish people had their street and so on. But they were very supportive of each other.
By the 1920s, the canyon's population had elevated to more than 15,000 people, yet each community was distinct in its character. Finns, Swedes, and Norwegians came to Carfork. Eastern and Southern European Slavs and Italians to Highland Boy. Greeks, Japanese, British, and Scandinavians to Copperfield. Austrians, Mexicans, Welsh, Cornish, and other Britons to Lark. And the British, French, Irish, and numerous others to Bingham. As a result, the mining camp was a microcosm of the world, a wonderful melting pot of many culturally diverse people.
And they brought their customs with them to school and used them in lots of ways. I remember even the parents coming, demonstrated cooking from their particular culture. So I think it was the variety of cultures that brought us together, and yet with a unique purpose. Everybody was interested in education, wanted to be good students, wanted to be friendly. Very, very friendly place.
Bingham, due to its steep topography, had room for only one main street that snaked its way through nearly 7 miles of canyon. These close confines added to the tragedies that resulted from the numerous fires, avalanches, and floods that continually plagued the residents of the canyon.
I think the reason the people were so closely knit was because people really cared about one another then. And if anybody had any problems or any hardships, the whole community rallied behind them and came to their rescue. There were few major disasters in Bingham. In Carfork, there was a big fire, and several apartment houses and homes burned down, and all the rest of the communities rallied behind those people and provided them with places to live and food to eat, and took care of those people that were left homeless. And so consequently, the people really become closely knit.
I think the mines cemented the town together. I really do, in a special way, because everybody worked there, and the dangers, and that wasn't ordinary work.
These hazards, in the canyon's limited space, led to the construction of Copperton at the canyon's mouth in 1926. This town, which later became the home of Bingham High, was designed as a model mining community and was constructed not for the average miner, but for the Utah Copper Company's management. Utah Copper Company later became the Kennecott Copper Corporation. The variety of people in Bingham Canyon helped transform the hill, as mining operations were originally called, into the world's largest open-pit copper mine. Public education had its beginnings in Bingham Canyon as early as 1873, when residents petitioned Salt Lake County to organize a school district. However, for the next 35 years, one could only advance to grade 8 in Bingham's educational system. In the fall of 1908, with E.C. Hart as the supervising teacher, Bingham High School was established as a branch of Jordan High School in the recently created Jordan School District. Classes were held in some rooms located above Canyon Hall, on the corner of Bingham's Main Street and Markham Gulch. F.G. Eskelson was made principal of Bingham High in January 1910, and the school was made independent of Jordan High. Bingham High's first graduating class was the class of 1912, which totaled 5 students. That same year, the Jordan School District started construction on a new high school building north of Canyon Hall, adjacent to the Central Grade School. This 3-story red brick structure, which had 2 big doors that opened onto Bingham's Main Street, was completed in 1913.
It was an interesting old building. At first, it was like 3 buildings hooked together. They had the primary children, the junior high school, and the high school. We had wonderful experiences there.
On the other side of the elementary school, a few hundred feet down the canyon, a multi-storied physical education building with a gymnasium, circular track, and swimming pool was opened in 1915. This welcomed addition for Bingham's sports later became the town's recreational civic center. Students from the towns of Bingham, Copperfield, Highland Boy, and Lark were brought to this new school with buses pulled by horses. The high school's first building was used until 1925. In that year, due to overcrowding, enrollment had reached 140 students. Bingham High was moved to a blackish-blue brick structure located a few hundred yards up the street in Bingham. But even this 4-storied building, dubbed the Old Blue Prison by some, wasn't big enough for long. By 1931, Bingham's miners were again moved to a spacious new building with 26 classrooms and a gymnasium in Copperton. Although many Binghamites were very unhappy about the school moving out of their city, they soon adopted it as their own.
To live in Copperton was a choice experience because everybody gets along. Everybody's concerned about everybody else, and everybody's your friend.
In years past, the school was the center of community activity, and everyone went to the school to participate in the to watch the plays and to listen to the music and to watch the ball games. And it was important in everyone's life. And it was what their lives were centered around the school activities. And it was very meaningful to them.
I think one of the best things about Bingham and the school was that the community was so supportive. This school was the meeting place for all of the surrounding towns in the community. All of the activities basically centered around this school. And even when we left this building, and to this day at the new high school, the community is very supportive.
From the time it opened, the Copperton School was constantly being enlarged and remodeled. Additions in the 1930s included a stadium, auditorium, and bus garage, built in part with WPA Depression-era labor. In the 1950s, the field house, agricultural shop, and wrestling gym were added. The final additions occurred in the 1960s, when a girls' gym, music rooms, team and teachers' classrooms, auto mechanic shop, and a dance studio were completed. When the city of Bingham was torn down in the late 1950s and 1960s due to the expansion of the open pit copper mine, it seemed as though Bingham High would have plenty of room for years to come. However, in 1957, the Jordan District School Board changed the boundaries of Bingham High School. The towns of Bluffdale, Harriman, Riverton, South Jordan, and West Jordan, which formerly sent their students to Jordan High, were now assigned to go to Bingham High, along with the students from Lark, Copperton, and Bingham. Despite some initial reluctance by a few of the Valley students to attend Bingham, the new students soon felt at home, traveling up from the Valley to Copperton every day.
Everybody was friendly. It's always been helpful, and if anybody had any problems, there was always somebody standing by to help. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful student body right from the beginning and still is.
Well, the fact that it's here in Copperton, a nice small community, very hometownish, people who grew up here, went to school here, worked for Kennecott, that close-knit community nature. We had a lot of teachers who were here, of course a lot of students who lived right here close by, and it was a kind of out of the way. It wasn't, the big school that it is today, and that's not to knock the new Bingham High School, but this one had a quaintness about it that it just brings back a lot of fond memories. And if you wanted to get away from the school, you go over to the Copperton Park, and if you've been there, it's just a wonderful haven. It's quiet, it's got lots of trees, it's cool, and people today come up to Copperton, to this park, as a getaway. And that's the way this community always was, and I think it'll always be remembered. To me, it was a getaway from the Valley. It was, we were just kind of snuggled up here. It was just a haven.
So many kids in the school went on to do great things, and they did great things because I think they got something out of Bingham High School. I think that they learned to live with other people.
The population of the southwestern portion of the Salt Lake Valley boomed in the 1960s, causing the enrollment of Bingham High to skyrocket from 231 in 1957 to more than 950 in the early 1970s. At this time, it was decided that still another Bingham High School would have to be built. The 40-acre site selected for the new school was in South Jordan at 104 South and 2160 West. At the urging of the student body, which by this time consisted mostly of Valley students, the school board decided to retain the name of Bingham and the mascot of a miner for the new school. This fourth Bingham High, which was designed on the open classroom plan for 2,400 students, opened its doors in September 1975 with an enrollment of 1,246. Taking 4 years in the planning and construction stages, the new Bingham High was still not finished when it opened. School was hectic the entire first year as construction crews worked around students and faculty members who tried to make the best of a difficult situation. Nevertheless, old traditions were continued and new traditions were added at the new South Jordan School, which by the 1990s had grown to be the largest high school in the state of Utah.
I think the motto is people serving people, caring not individually for yourself, but people helping people. I think that's a good model for the community and for Bingham High School, which will and has lived on as they've gone from here down to South Jordan. We were so happy when they kept the name of Bingham High School, when they moved it to South Jordan, because it has so many traditions and so much wonderful, wonderful reputation. So we wanted it to be preserved, and we were grateful when they did that.
Despite the fact that Bingham High has had 5 locations and 4 buildings since its beginning in 1908, has left the town at Bingham and even Bingham Canyon, the school has tried to maintain its distinctive character. Locations, physical facilities, and times have changed. But for Bingham High, it has not been the bricks and mortar that have made the school, but its traditions, faculty, and students. This has made Bingham one of a kind, a school that has had a blast of a past and is looking forward to a dynamite future. When you think of a miner, what do you think of? In the early days of Bingham, it could have been an industrious prospector panning for gold, or a hard rock laborer toiling 12 hours a day in constant danger deep within the Ochre Mountains. Both engaged in bone-wrenching labor in their quest for valuable minerals. When they found riches, the cry of "Eureka" could be heard. They had hit pay dirt. Considering Bingham's rich mining history, it was only natural that Bingham High School's mascot be this industrious, hard-working miner.
The miner mascot, to me, is the great symbol of the unique history and tradition that is Bingham High School. It is a connection to what Bingham High School was and how it started, and really is the perfect symbol for this connection to things in the past and to the people who made this all happen.
So it just absolutely went along with what our community stood for. And they have carried that out even though they've moved away from the mining community.
You take this certain society, this community, back to its roots. Hardworking people who made their living pulling minerals and elements out of the hillside. That's where the roots of our community come from. And that makes me proud to be a Bingham miner, because then I can look back on where my roots came from and understand more of who I am and what the school means.
Reminiscent of old-time miners and their rich mining past, Bingham High students symbolically begin each year with a reenactment of a miner's search for pay dirt.
We have a old rock, a big rock about like this that I got from Bingham Canyon, and we take an old drill bit and we take a double jack and we put on an old mining cap, and we take and we drill for pay dirt. Now, a miner, when he was successful, hit pay dirt, and so we call it drilling for pay dirt. And this started about 1982, and I give a little talk explaining what it means, but we challenge each student to hit pay dirt during the coming year.
Graduating seniors who achieve this goal are awarded the Pick and Shovel, or PIC Awards. Bingham alumni who achieve success in their life are inducted into the Pay Dirt Club, Bingham High School's Hall of Fame.
To me, the miner symbolizes someone that really works hard and sacrifices for something that he really wants, and even under hard conditions, such as some miners in the old times have gone through, but yet they still kept on that common goal to eventually strike it rich, so to speak, or eventually we work hard to achieve our goals that we've set out to achieve, even if the conditions get a little rough.
During the 90 years that Bingham High has been in existence, it is not surprising that many memorable traditions have been established. Some have passed by the wayside and have been forgotten. Some have changed and developed, and some have grown strong and endured. Nevertheless, traditions play an important part in any high school, in linking it to its past and giving it perspective for the future.
It was always kind of traditional. It was a traditional thing that the 7th graders got set on the fountain. You didn't know whether you was going to get hurt or what was happening when all those big senior boys would come and get you. And so it was quite tense at first when you got here in the 7th grade, but everybody then accepted you.
One of Bingham's oldest traditions is whitewashing the bee on the side of the Ochre Mountains. This first occurred in 1927 when students selected a site for a bee just above the Bingham and Garfield Railroad line on the north side of Bingham Canyon. In April of that year, the proud miners trekked up the steep mountainside and moved rocks into place to form a block letter B. Assembling together to form a bucket brigade from the old railroad line to the base of the B, they then splashed the rocks with whitewash.
This was a big thing every year. And the senior class would take over, and this would be their donation to the school, is they'd buy the whitewash and everything else, and the whole class would go up and whitewash the B.
Every year ended up in a whitewashing fight. Everyone would come back with whitewash all over them. And so you just normally expected that you should wear your old clothes when you went up. It's always a fun experience.
Other activities were later added to this annual sprucing up, and this became known as Bee Day.
Then we had competitions between each of the grades, the classes, the juniors, the sophomores, and the seniors, and it was just an all-around great activity. Built, I think, a lot of school spirit and prepared the lower classes to, take over leadership as they, became seniors at the high school.
Bingham's school song had its origin in 1930. That year, a contest was held to select a new school song, as 2 earlier versions had proven to be unsatisfactory. The winner of the contest was senior Jack Smith, who composed the words to a song he entitled Bingham, Sons and Daughters. He set his words to a popular 1920s tune that was known as Sons of Burgundy. The school hymn was composed in 1953 by Lowell Hicks, the Bingham music teacher, and was entitled Dreams of Bingham High. The words were composed by Robert Knotts, who was also a teacher. This hymn was not intended to replace the school song, but was written so that students had something more solemn to sing at official functions like graduation and the conclusion of assemblies.
And it wasn't something that was just on the books but never used. But to this day, assemblies at Bingham High School end with the student body standing and singing the school hymn. And I don't think when he wrote that song, he expected it to become as significant as it has been.
Few miners will ever forget the traditional candlelight service, which was inaugurated in 1937 by Joel P. Jensen, then Bingham's music teacher. This is the school's annual Christmas program, and it's been presented annually by Bingham's performing arts groups.
I remember the first year we did it, we had the real live fire candles walking down the aisle in the gym, and then of course the law said that, they were a fire hazard, so then they had to carry flashlights.
I can still picture in my mind, they give a candle to each person with a little piece of cardboard underneath the candle that's wrapped in tin foil so you don't drip the wax on your hand. And then they have a processional, and they line the students up, and they come down all the different aisles in the auditorium and from the sides of the stage, and all the candles are lit. Just really a nice evening and lots of fun for the music department.
That was always so magical to me, and I had older brothers and sisters who were involved in that, so when I was younger I'd get to come to that, and I couldn't wait to be a part of that. Partly because it was just the event of it seemed so magical, but there was something about it being a tradition, even then, that you just wanted to be a part of it, or I did, and people I knew did. And at the end of the candlelight services every year, they would invite people from the audience who had been in Bingham High School choirs to come up and sing the Hallelujah Chorus. And that was always fun to see people, when I was in the choirs, to see people who I'd known who'd graduated to come back up and be able to sing with us. And I so looked forward to being able to come back after I'd graduated and come back and sing and be a part of that service.
Every school has its homecoming celebrations, and Bingham is no exception. Since 1957, homecoming has been a major traditional event. Homecoming at Bingham includes whitewashing the Bee, a foot race down Minor Mile, the Tour de Bingham bicycle race from Copperton to South Jordan, the night pep rally, an alumni assembly, the homecoming dance, and of course, the football game in its halftime extravaganza.
Homecoming is just full of traditions at Bingham. To have the homecoming dance at the old Bingham High School was really neat and full of traditions and full of the history, and it was really, really neat.
A newer tradition is burning the bee. Reminiscent of the homecoming bonfires that were used in the old city of Bingham, this tradition started at the South Jordan School and consists of burning a large wire block bee wrapped in rags.
That really just stands out in my mind so much, because burning of the bee, you do it only twice a year, at homecoming and then at graduation, and it becomes one of those treasure moments in your life.
And it would be kind of an eternal flame that would burn through the graduation night that to me represented the culmination of high school spirit, of a lot of hard work and sweat through high school.
And then to walk out on the football field and to see the bee lit up, standing there with your friends, knowing that your relationships would never be the same. I mean, everyone was going to go in their different directions, and life would bring you careers and families and new friends and new experiences. It would never be the same, and it just sort of brought some real closure to the experience, watching that bee lit up in flames, standing there with your friends, hugging everyone, crying, and everything that happens as a part of graduation.
Many Binghamites were worried that when the high school left Bingham Canyon, that it would lose all its traditions. Fortunately, this has not been the case, as old traditions were continued and new ones, enriching and enhancing Bingham's heritage, were added.
It was a hard thing to do because you had a lot of memories up in Copperton and a lot of things up there, and leaving that school, it had always been known, and then this new one being down in a different area in South Jordan. We were asked as a class if we wanted to keep the same name, if we wanted to keep the same colors, if we wanted to have, Bee Day or the washing of the bee left on the mountain.
It made a transition into a brand new building that gave the kids something that was a priceless foundation, because Bingham had been that was their 5th building, but the tradition of Bingham was still there.
Traditions make up Bingham High School. Though we've moved buildings, the traditions have carried on, and it's so important for Bingham. And that's the neat thing, is that you can carry on those traditions, and it brings the student body together so much, and they know their traditions and they know the importance of them.
Traditions are very vital to understanding Bingham High School. Traditions are at the basic level of everything we do here.
They help build something in you. And when you participate in them, the activity itself is fun. The journey of doing it is fun, the getting it ready. And each little tradition for each person that comes along, I think, stirs up the memories. Oh, this was high school for me. We used to do this. We used to dress like that. And the little simple traditions, whether they seem silly now or not, helped make high school for you.
When we think back to where they came from, why we do those type of things, help us, I think, to understand the importance that we are Bingham High School students or alumni, and that we came from this unique institution where these unique things happen. It makes us unique. I think it brings us together more as, this is who I grew up with. It's tradition. It's what we all are.
Well, I think it went back so far, and you carried on those traditions. It's kind of neat to talk to people, about those things. And the traditions, they change a little bit, but if you talk to older alumni who have been there before, you have something in common because you're all doing the same type things.
I think traditions instill in students and in the whole school a sense of place in time, and also a sense of belonging and of cohesion with your past. You have a linkage. Without traditions and our past, we don't have perspective for the future.
Some of the lasting memories of Bingham High School are those of the teachers who have helped to create and maintain a tradition of academic excellence. Academics has always been the priority at Bingham High School, where caring and inspiring teachers have opened doors to new worlds and have given young miners opportunities to explore, grow, and learn in preparing them for life.
Everyday student life was good for the simple reason we had teachers who they loved you. There was a lot of love shown by the teachers for the kids, and it was the amount of intelligence that they put out was what they had.
Teachers really cared at Bingham High School. Teachers were very dedicated. The staff was close amongst themselves.
And they went the extra mile. And they really taught us. We were prepared when we went to college. They were wonderful. They took interest in students, and if you were having a problem, rather than sending you down to T.H. McMullen or Mr. Wooten, they would actually ask you to stay in, a few minutes after school, and they would actually do a one-on-one basis and help students out.
But they were caring, and they saw the potential in us, and they pushed us to our limits, and still loving and caring, they did that.
Teachers here weren't just teachers, they were your friends, and they were really involved with the students, and they really cared. A lot of them were alumni, and so they know the traditions of Bingham, they know what Bingham's like, and they help they help carry on and help get students involved and really, keep them up to date.
I felt like that I got a real good foundation from my teachers, not only from an educational point of view and academically, but just a way of life that you learn from those people. They taught good values and encouraged you to go in the right direction, and these kind of things I'll never forget.
Carefully molding and nurturing each individual class, Bingham's teachers have not only inspired young minds, but have instilled in many a desire for lifelong learning, and in so doing have touched the future, for they will never know where their influence will end. Joyce Sanders Lundberg said it well when she wrote, "A teacher is someone who senses the worth of my soul, who sees the potential within, who somehow knows how to open the way for me to try harder and win. Someone who sees beyond the small acts that cover my real needs inside and uses the power of calm gentleness while setting the boundaries that guide. Someone who opens the world to my view and causes my mind to explore the wonders of life in ways that inspire a yearning to walk through the door. Someone whose smile reveals a deep faith in all that is decent and true, whose caring and love I cannot resist. That someone, that teacher, is you." Sports have always been a unifying experience at Bingham High School. They have unified not only the student body, but the entire Bingham community. In the early years, they were the only game in town. Loyal supporters of Bingham sports would take time off work, miss meetings, or drop other activities to attend the weekly Bingham High School game. Bingham always seems to have the most fans, the loudest cheering fans, and the most loyal fans at games both home and away.
It was a big day and a big night when we had the football games and the basketball games because the pep club was all spiffied up and we would march and it was just a lot of fun and the school got involved and everyone came to the games.
The whole week was geared to the unity and that of sporting activities, I think. The Friday night football game or the Friday night basketball game, everybody went just about, and I remember sitting up in the balcony or with the pep band or whichever place I was, and everybody went to the activities, and we always had more people than any of the other schools.
The minute the men got off of work with the football game on, why they were just hustling down there to the football game, and then the basketball, they were just there. That was some of the important events of Bingham High School, was the athletic program.
But everybody went to the ball games, and we were in a league where you had to travel great distances. We would go out into Tooele County to Grantsville, and you would go out into the Carbon area. I mean, it was a major event to go to a football game or a basketball game. You would go on buses. It wasn't uncommon to get home 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning from those excursions, but the whole school went.
The pride in the Bingham High School was tops because the students supported everybody, and if they would win a game, why, this would be great for the students. The fans followed the teams no matter where they went. If they went up to Ogden to play, why, you could bet that there would be more fans from Bingham than Ogden would have.
At basketball games in Bingham, you had a reserved seat, and everybody had the same seat every year, and they really treasured those seats. I mean, they weren't giving them up, and everybody dressed up. I can remember there was one woman who always came in a hat and her fur coat to the basketball games. That really seems ridiculous now because we're so casual about everything. But every Friday night, everybody dressed up. And practically all of Bingham Canyon and Copperton came to the basketball games. The place was always packed with the same people.
I remember when we'd go to the state playoffs, the whole town would be there, and you could expect that. All the students would come to the games, and the support and the school spirit was great.
Boys basketball was the first organized sport at Bingham High. It began in 1915 with the completion of a 4-story gymnasium building. Loyal fans, which crowded the small court and track to watch the games, literally shook the building to its foundations. Bingham's Cagers, first coached by Homer Christensen and later by legends like Tommy McMullen, Sonny Alsop, Udell Wankier, and George Saluga, established a basketball powerhouse.
And we had good athletic programs. Tommy McMullen was a coach, basketball coach for 25 years here, and took a team to the tournament for 25 years.
The old gymnasium that they played the ball games in had a circular track up around the thing, and part of that track hung over a corner of the court. Tommy had taught his players how to shoot from that corner with that handicap, but the teams coming in had a terrible time doing it, so he didn't lose many home games on that.
They won their first state championship in 1960 and went on to win 5 additional titles in the next 30 years. With energy and enthusiasm, awesome shooting, and fascinating plays, Bingham's basketball teams have always given students a lot to cheer about and a lot of exciting memories of high school sports. Football also gave minors a lot to cheer about. Officially adopted at Bingham High in 1925, games were first played in Copperton at the Utah Copper Ballpark. First coached by the legendary Bailey Santesteven, Bingham's Gritters have shown that constant hard work and discipline will pay off in the end.
We had kind of a tradition with the sophomore football team is what we call the molehill. And the molehill was up behind the stadium. If we lost a football game, that's what they expected they'd have to do the next Monday would be to run that molehill. and that was something they didn't cherish too much. So I'd have to say we were more on the winning side than the losing side.
We had a bad football team. We won one game my senior year. I think we won 2 when I was a junior and maybe 1 when I was a sophomore, so we were bad. But we had a lot of fun. It was great, and it was a good experience. Builds character to be involved in team sports. It's good to see Bingham doing a lot better since then.
The Friday night football game, with its fun and excitement, will always be an important part of high school life. In baseball, Bingham has established a dynasty. Our 17 state championships is a state record. Bailey Santasteven first brought baseball to Bingham in 1928 and laid the foundations for our school's winning traditions. His Little League program, known as the Eskimo Pie League, was one of the first in the state and helped to train minors from a young age in the fundamentals of the sport that was to put Bingham on the map.
Bailey Santasteven. Memory serves me right, 11, 12 baseball championships, 5 football championships. There was 200 of us coming in the early 50s to his Eskimo Pie League. 8 games, fully staffed, no umpires, no parents, 1 coach. And he built a dynasty. We grew up, you know, we had our own field of dreams. Now, never thought about it that way before, but we did. We had our own field of dreams.
That baseball program just turned out one good baseball player after another, and Bailey's teams won more state championships than anybody.
Minors have been mentored by many excellent coaches since that time, who have continued to instill within our teams the tradition of excellence that Bingham baseball has made famous. Wrestling came to Bingham in the 1954-55 school year, and since that time has become one of our major sports. The first wrestling team was coached by Delmar Schick and Cal Crump.
We had a lot of rivalry with Jordan and Hillcrest, and when those schools started up, and also Tooele. I think as time went on, we had our identity just as well as basketball. And when we had a wrestling match, we started with a few people, and then over the years we had a good sizable group there watching us.
There have been very few years that Bingham's grapplers have not had winning records, as constant effort and training have enabled them to finish high in region and state tournaments. Minor men have participated in a host of other sports teams that have represented our school well. These have included tennis, golf, soccer, track and field, swimming, and cross country. The cross country runners made school history in 1995 when they won Bingham's first national championship in a team sport.
Just the determination they had and just how great they are, and they're really humble about it too.
Lady minor sports made their debut at Bingham in the 1971-72 school year. Under the direction of Dorothy Peterson, who was the girls' athletic coach, girls' volleyball, track, gymnastics, and softball teams were organized. Basketball and tennis were soon added.
The first year we were allowed to coach girls' athletics. We weren't allowed to have a regular schedule like the boys, but we were allowed to do volleyball. And so all of the schools were able to choose, have tryouts for a volleyball team, and we did all of our participation in one night. And Bingham won the trophy the first year. We had a traveling trophy, so our names were put on it. And this is what we were able to do for several years before they allowed any participation.
Since Bingham High moved to South Jordan, women's sports have become officially sanctioned and have had their own state championships where lady minor teams have demonstrated their athletic prowess. The thumping of rubber on the gym floor meant it was basketball season once again. Always one of the most popular girls' sports, the lady minor basketball team never failed to shoot for the top. Practicing for many years before school in the early morning hours, the girls worked hard and have proven they are championship material. set, dive, and spike. These were only a few of the terms used to describe the success of Bingham's volleyball teams over the years. Under the able leadership of Esther Halliday, who was the coach for over 2 decades, minor volleyball teams won their share of state titles and made their mark in prep sports. Although unrecognized as an official state sport until 1990, Bingham's girls softball team has, through practice, determination, and sheer tenacity, shown they were top caliber. They won state championships 4 of the first 5 years the title was offered. On your mark, get set, go! The gun fired and Bingham's women's track team went racing on to victory. In fact, the Lady Miners Tracksters were the first women's sports team at Bingham to win a state championship. They accomplished this feat in 1989. Athletes who participated in track have had to brave the elements, sore muscles, and many long and tiring hours of practice in order to achieve their personal best. Lady Miners have also participated in a number of other sports, which have included tennis, soccer, swimming, gymnastics, cross country, and golf. Always striving for excellence, they have represented Bingham well and added new skills to their high school learning experience. Sports have always been a vital part of life at Bingham High School. The championship game, the come-from-behind victory, or the exhilaration of doing one's personal best will be forever etched into the memories of miners past and present. Over the years, Bingham has had an outstanding tradition of sports excellence. Bingham's graduates have gone on to careers in professional football, basketball, and baseball. Many have competed in college athletics, and our school even boasts an Olympic medalist. Other outstanding athletes have become coaches, teachers, and administrators. For over 90 years, Bingham's athletes have certainly given our school cause to cheer and to be proud.
The daily activities that you see around school, you just sometimes don't get that time, that opportunity to, to focus and to say, hey, I'm part of this tradition, this high school. But the sporting events gave us that opportunity to express ourselves and to show the spirit that we have.
I don't think there's a time in life that's like high school in that way, because when you go to the sporting events, the people that are playing are your friends. And they're the ones performing, and you want them to do well and for themselves and for the team and for your school and for your pride and all of those things. And there's not another time like that when you get to see your friends competing and doing well or not doing well. I don't think you ever duplicate that feeling and that level of excitement once you get out of high school.
When you win and you have championships and things like that, it kind of helps build those traditions. People want to be a part of a winner, and when I was here, I felt like that's what we were. We were winners. We had some very good coaches and very good players that helped make that.
Always a highlight of any school year were the dances. Usually held in the school gymnasium or cafeteria, dances like homecoming, senior hop, junior prom, sweetheart's ball, or girls' preference were major events on any minor social calendar.
Well, I remember we had a junior prom, and this was the time of the Depression, and we were really lucky to have a junior prom dress, but we did, and we did the promenade, and then we had matinee dances once a week, and they were fun, and we learned how to dance, and the boys had to be taught how to ask us correctly, and they were very popular.
Oh, the dances. They were a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun decorating for them. Every different dancer had a different theme. The dances were just, the highlight, I think, of a lot of people's high school years.
It was customary in the junior prom and the senior hop to decorate the gymnasium with crepe paper. We would put wires up across the gym, and put an artificial ceiling with crepe paper wrapped close together, and then decorations up the walls. And so it was a fairly significant process. They were fun activities.
The many hours spent twisting crepe paper, blowing up balloons, hanging plastic, or designing backdrops to create the perfect setting seemed well worth the effort when one walked into the dance hall all dressed up with a date. Themes and settings ranged from the South Pacific Islands with fountains, fishnets, flowers, and smoking volcanoes to winter scenes with flocked trees and hanging snowflakes.
We had a dance every month, a formal or a semi-formal dance. They were always held in the cafeteria. Big activity was after school, clear out the tables and clear out the chairs, decorate for them. You couldn't decorate without donuts. We always ordered in donuts and started hanging the crepe paper and got ready for the dance. Oftentimes you would finish about the time the first people were coming to the dance, and so you'd race home and get ready. How you got to it and how you left was kind of important. We'd come in some people's hire limousines, some people come in the back of farm trucks, whatever seemed to be new and original. And that's how you could get to and from the dance.
The junior prom in my day was held at the Lafayette Ballroom at the Hotel Utah. And I remember when I was a junior, I was chosen by Virginia McDonald to dance in the floor show. So we did this really formal dance, and all the guys had to do this dancing stuff, which was really not in this formal dancing, but we got to wear our tuxedos and do that.
In the beginning, as you come in as freshmen and sophomores, you'd go to the stomps without dates and stand around and just be in awe. I mean, having come from junior high now to high school, and now you've got these older seniors who your older brothers and sisters know, and they're dancing and they know how to dance, I remember wondering how they ever learned.
Fashions and music would change over the years, but the magic would remain, as Bingham's dances were events to remember. Assemblies at Bingham have always been an important part of student activities. Memorable assemblies presented by individual classes, the faculty, traveling groups, or talented students were yearly events. In addition, patriotic, educational, motivational, and pep assemblies provided students with extracurricular learning experiences and a welcome break from classwork.
One of the traditions that I found quite enjoyable were the teachers' assemblies, because we always put on assemblies, and for the pep assemblies, the teachers took part. But we did have a lot of fun doing faculty assemblies. I think it made us more human to them.
Whether it was for informing oneself about something new, developing performance skills in front of a large group, or just enjoying a period of entertainment and fun, assemblies were a valuable part of the high school experience. A big event at Bingham for many years was the crowning of the yearbook queen, known as Miss Coppertonian. This tradition began in 1945 to generate additional interest in the yearbook and to promote the sale of war bonds. Students voted for Miss Coppertonian at 50 cents a vote. This activity evolved into having a fundraising Halloween carnival, and then to a dance known as the Coronation Ball, where the Queen was chosen in a pageant.
The judges would be brought in from outside of the community or the building, and girls were judged on their posture and appearance and their modeling. And also they had to perform a talent, and they had to answer questions, and they also had lunch with the judges, so intellect was part of it. And that person was selected every year in the fall, and that was a highlight assembly in those days. And that was conducted that way for many years.
This continued until 1987, when the tradition was discontinued and the Bingham Ball took its place. The most popular event sponsored by the yearbook has been Yearbook Day. Bingham's yearbook was first published in 1918 and was known as the Medal, but this name was soon changed to the Coppertonian. Yearbook Day, held in late May or June, has always been greatly anticipated. It's nearly impossible to walk down the school's hallways as students are strewn all over the building, trying to get their friends to sign their latest edition of the Coppertonian. For many years, B-Day was held in conjunction with Yearbook Day. Theme weeks like Pride Week, Spirit Week, Sub for Santa Week, individual class weeks, and others have also been very popular over the years. However, it didn't matter what the activity was, for it was always designed to unify the student body and to instill spirit and pride within every one of Bingham's sons and daughters. Associating with students having common interests by participating in clubs and other organizations has long been a part of Bingham High School life. Organizations like the National Honor Society, Academic Decathlon Team, Sterling Scholars, and academic clubs ranging from the Science Club to Model United Nations have promoted greater learning as well as social activities among like-minded individuals. VICA, DECA, FFA, FHA, and other national clubs serve as an extension to the curriculum of many of the vocational classes and enabled students to demonstrate their skills on a state and national level. Two of the most popular clubs over the years were the Miners Club, which later became the Prospector Club, and the Minorette Club. First chartered in 1933, the Miners Club was organized to promote school spirit. Later, as the Prospectors, it was one of the foremost clubs in rendering school service.
We got jackets, special jackets with the club, and and we did a lot of service projects. Had initiations, which were kind of interesting. Initiations, wearing crazy clothing and having to eat and drink things that you normally wouldn't eat and drink.
The Minorettes were organized in the late 30s to serve as the school pep club. Under the direction of Virginia Harris McDonald for over 30 years, the Minorettes proved invaluable to Bingham High School in rendering service, cheering teams, and promoting school spirit.
I was a member of the Minorette Club, which was kind of the official pep club. And Miss Harris, she had a wonderful Minorette Club, very strict. I mean, everything had to be letter perfect. And although she was a very strict disciplinarian, the girls just loved her.
Sparking spirit and cheering teams to victory has also been an important role of the cheerleaders, yell leaders, and song leaders. Without their dedicated efforts and enthusiasm, Bingham's spirits would not be the same. Bingham's performing arts groups have always been some of the best in the state. The excellent music, drama, and dance groups have not only provided individual minors opportunities for growth, but have provided hours of enjoyment to others by their uplifting performances.
It was a great experience going around and singing in different, the malls. We sang at Cotwood Mall back when it was brand new. We sang, in churches and different areas. It was a good experience, and for me personally, it was the first time I ever really had that experience.
Training students to hone their skills in public speaking and persuasion, Bingham's debate team dominated the field. Under the leadership of Dennis Edmonds for many years, Bingham's forensic wizards were able to win 8 state championships.
The most fun was being involved in something that was very successful because everyone had to contribute to it. And you didn't want to let anyone down because there was this tradition of winning and tradition of doing well. And that was a great learning experience.
Volumes of materials have been published by Bingham's journalistic and literary organizations. The Coppertonian, Literary Magazine, and B-Book have not only preserved the school's history, but demonstrated student skills and provided valuable information for the entire student body. The Prospector, the school newspaper, which has been known in its earlier editions as the Coppertonian and Highlights, has not only kept minors up to date with the latest news, but has served as a forum for student opinions. Keeping alumni current on school events is a function of the Bingham High Alumni Association. Founded in 1989 with the purpose of awarding scholarships to graduating seniors, it has not only sponsored projects to raise money for that worthy goal, but has distributed the alumni newsletter, Minor Details, to maintain links with alumni throughout the country. Service organizations like the Key Club, Prospectors, Student Senate, and others have always been popular at Bingham. Reaching out to others through countless hours of selfless service has enabled club members to learn important lessons beyond the walls of the classroom and brought inner growth to all those involved. Student council is like life. It is real students solving real problems, making important decisions, speaking honestly, and taking an active part in the administration of the school. In doing this, Bingham's student government has developed leadership skills and put them into practice.
The thing that comes to mind the most was the election process for student body officers. They had a week mapped out where you had to do all of your things that week to try to promote your name or the office you were running for. And they would start out the first of the week and open the doors at 5 a.m. or 4. It was dark, and you'd bring your little crew in and all your handmade posters and duct tape, and we'd come in and start hanging up signs and posters and anything you could to get your name out for the election.
After everything has been said and done, teaching students to become leaders is one of the basic skills coming from the high school experience. Bingham High School's success in achieving this desired outcome can be found in the lives of minor graduates throughout the world. Men and women who still bleed Bingham blue can be found as leaders in business, education, medicine, government, and the military. Every day, they can be found putting into practice valuable lessons they learned as one of Bingham's sons and daughters.
To me, the biggest part of being a part of a club or of a group at high school is that it makes you feel like you're part of Bingham High School. And all these clubs and groups and stomps and activities, all those things you have aside of the scholastics, seems to be the glue that holds Bingham High School together. And when you kind of find your little niche in yearbook or in journalism or this or that or whatever, all of a sudden you're part of Bingham and you're part of what's going on and the excitements that's there. And you have a part of making the history of it.
I think they help to develop students to go out into society where the classroom doesn't. They learn to make decisions. They learn to lead their fellow students. They learn to compromise, to get along.
Learning to deal with people, broadening your education by working with other people. They're just as important as the education you're learning in the classroom.
It gave us an opportunity to learn something in our own interests, be it in VICA or be it with in the Prospector Club as far as helping other people. It gave us that opportunity to serve and to learn from others. The faculty and staff at Bingham High School offered quite a bit in these different areas. You know, they were able to give us those opportunities to share and to learn.
Bingham High School graduates span nearly 5 generations, and each one has favorite memories of his or her experiences as a minor. Each memory carries with it a different perspective and brings pleasure with its retelling. It is hoped that the following memories will help bring to mind special times in your high school experience and will help you to reflect on those days when you were a Bingham Miner.
We'd run the halls, and they had the ramps here, you know, they didn't have stairways, and we made raceways out of them. A lot of times we'd roller skate down them, but a lot of times we wouldn't too. But it was just great because it didn't make any difference where you was in the school. You was looked after, and it was good.
And they had a great high school thing too, I think, for that time. At halftime in the team, little kids like myself, when I was young, and Bingham and my brother a few years older, we'd go to the ball game, and they would have the bleachers were there, and they let us get crawl underneath the bleachers, and then look out between their feet at the ball game. And then at the halftime, they would turn out the lights. And while the lights were turned out, the people would throw coins onto the basketball floor. And when the lights came back on, we just scooted out of that seat and get all the coins we could get, and then get back in under it staying. And these old miners weren't cheap in throwing coins out there either, so it was great.
After every basketball game, when it was at home and if we won, as soon as the players had gone to the locker room, all the students would come out of the stands and form a great big circle, cover almost the whole court, and then you'd cross hands and start counting by twos up to the score. And then when you got done, you'd throw whatever you could find, megaphones, pom-poms, shoes, whatever, up into the air, clean it off, and that was kind of your sign that the game's over, you can go home now.
In PE, we had instruction in dancing. So I think it was once a week when we were in the lower grades in PE class, we combined with the girls and we had dancing, which, you know, was not a major excitement for us boys in that time, but we did it, learned how to dance.
Bingham High School back then for football was one of the few schools in this valley that had night games because we had lights, and that was great. It was great to have games here in the evening. You drove up, and it was a big event.
After the junior prom, we went to another couple's place, and we had graham crackers with frosting and hot chocolate, and we thought that was wonderful. And we just made our own fun.
"90 years of history and of unifying traditions. 90 years of caring and inspiring teachers, and of sports triumphs and disappointing defeats. 90 years of activities promoting both spirit and pride, and of organizations developing talents and building character. And yes, 90 years of memories. Memories of moments of glory, times of sadness, of friends and events in a time and place now past. Memories of a family of Bingham miners that was born in that great melting pot of an Old West mining town no longer standing. Memories that will enrich the lives of Bingham's sons and daughters forever. Just like the great variety of ores and minerals that have been taken from Bingham Canyon to physically build America, Bingham High School has produced a great variety of exceptional sons and daughters who have made tremendous contributions to build the heart and soul of America. This is what has made Bingham High one of a kind and has contributed to the fact that Bingham's sons and daughters, whether they've actually lived in Bingham, graduated from Bingham, or just adopted Bingham, are proud to number themselves as Bingham miners.
This school is built on traditions of people who came to this country with a dream of a new life and opportunities.
And it goes back to their great-grandparents, their grandparents, their parents. They went to Bingham High School. And I can't tell you the feeling, but when you see somebody from Bingham, It's just like they just saw you yesterday. We can stand and talk on and on and on.
Having the experience of growing in Bingham was so unique that I feel sorry for most young people that I read about today in the paper that are just so disenchanted with their life or their school, their existence, that I feel if they could have had this experience, it would have been wonderful for them. It was that great.
We had a unique experience in that the farm kids in 1958 joined with the mine kids, and the combination was dynamite.
Well, once you're a miner, you're always a miner. To have the support of the alumni, it shows how much Bingham is a part of their life.
There is a certain pride that exists among Bingham High School students, both those who have graduated and those that are here right now. I think the people that go to Bingham care about Bingham High School. You can see that by the number of pictures and posters and plaques that are hanging up in every department, of groups that have been here and groups that are here now. You can tell by the way the different organizations, particularly sports and music, are supported by people who've been here and have graduated and still find time and interest to come back and see what's going on here.
And I think that's what Bingham has always been able to maintain, is that school pride, because even though I've been out of education for several years now, I attend a lot of the athletic events and a lot of the music events and things like that, and I can still see that pride and still there.
If I hadn't been a miner, I can't imagine where I'd be today, because it impacted me that much. It's what I am, it's what I've become, and what I hope to be.
Bingham High School is the building, and it's the activities, but it's the people. And it's people coming together for a common cause, which is important. Unfortunately, not all schools have experienced that. It takes a lot of history and background, a lot of years of tradition to get to that point. And there are a few schools that are there. Most are not. And Bingham is one that is still there.